I am Dracula.
I need to sort the lighting on this rig out because I've not got my ring light set up yet. I've still got so much shit to sort out. All I've got is this blaring natural light. Trying to balance it out with the screen that I've got here with a big white screen. So I got
yeah. I mean, I've just got the window as well. There's no extra lighting going on in here.
Yeah, but the benefit we had of doing when we used to record this whenever we would record this in the evening, is that your window, as in your Discord window, sort of went with the theme because it got darker. It got nice and dark until there was literally just head.
just my glowing face.
Like I've never been a fan of Red Dwarf, so you can leave now if you want, if you're really annoyed with me. But isn't there a floating head in like a big black abyss?
Yeah, I'm looking like Holly on the computer screen. I was going to say Pazuzu from Exorcist, but Holly from Red Dwarf, we'll go with that.
I could so Photoshop Pazuzu's face every now and then, just flash it. I am Pazuzu. That's another series that... Although, the thing with the Exorcist series, you can do 1, skip 2, and go to 3. 2's rubbish.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the series?
No, it got cancelled.
No.
I
watched a little bit.
It was meant to be great. Meant to be fantastic.
I saw a couple of episodes. It was good what I saw, but I didn't stick with all of it that's out there, so I've not seen it all in its entirety.
I mean, don't worry. Don't worry, we've got David Gordon Green's trilogy coming out soon. If it's anything like his Halloween trilogy, we're in for a treat.
When Jordan Peele's doing Friday the 13th?
No. Was that not real? That wasn't real.
Happening?
Where did you see that? Because I saw it on a social media and I can't remember which one.
I saw it on Twitter, I believe. I think it was Twitter. But there is also something else I saw on social media. There is a series coming of called Crystal Lake.
Yeah, prequel.
Like, what is that just going to be?
We don't need it.
Jason getting bullied for 90 minutes every week, like.
I mean, what else? Unless they take it in their own way, a new way. But what else is there to tell? You've had 12 films and a sprinkling of his history told throughout those films, and even a filmed backstory of him in Freddy vs. Jason. Like, it's a very simple story.
Yeah, it doesn't need a teen drama, which inevitably it'll be another Bates Motel type of thing.
I generally think it's because the licensing for Friday the 13th has been so up in the air for so long. It's been fought for so long. They're like, it's kind of like the Alien and Terminator franchises where we have to do something with it.
We've got to, otherwise we'll lose the property. Yeah.
So they're finally doing something with it. But I don't know. It is a series that's not needed. But
I mean, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, take a gander.
I'm not holding my breath that it's going to be any good.
No, but damn it, I couldn't even think of a segue to get into.
Does that mean you're recording, Tom?
No, but you know what is good? I don't know. Horror films. And that's
Dracula.
what we're Dracula.
Vampires.
Ooh, spooky. And that's what we're here today to talk about on this lovely 20 to 24 degrees summer's day. Inside, ears are starting to become sweaty already with the headphones on. PC is acting like a radiator by my legs, and we're here to talk about horror films for an hour or two. Yeah. So yes, welcome back to the Dreadcast one and all, episode 43?
3? I think it's 3.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Why not? Episode 43. Of myself, Tom, and the wonderful Aidan.
Hello.
And hello. There he is. There he is. And today's episode's a special one because it's the first of a brand new series on the show.
Yeah.
A brand new series. I'm very excited to get into
series.
I'm very excited because I realised there are 8 films in this series that we're going to be doing, and that's 2 months worth.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It is.
Can you not tell how excited we are?
I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and I was trying to remember which. There was like, me and Tom, but we decided to do it because we've both got this box set, the Universal monsters. We figured, it'd be good to do the classics. Yeah, we'll have a look at them. And there's 8 films, so that's like 8 episodes. And then I could only remember 4 films when I was trying to. They were like, which ones is it? It's like Dracula.
I'll be honest. There's one film on this list when I was looking at the doing the artwork for future episodes that I had no idea fell into the category, and that was Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera, yeah.
I had no idea that was an original Universal monster.
I was convinced there was Jekyll and Hyde as well.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I thought that. I mean, maybe. So yes, the origin story of this episode, folks. For the video, well, for the audio listeners, I'm holding up the Blu-ray box set of Monsters of the Universal Essential Collection. It's an 8-film collection of all the original Universal monster films. So we're going from Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, who, as I corrected myself last time, was Ted White. So suck it, everyone else.
Yes, I owe you an apology for that as well.
It's fine. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. It's fine. But it was Ted right. I was right. Yeah. What I think is, these are the originals. Obviously, so many more were made. So many more were made after. I would say Jekyll and Hyde then probably came. Haven't done the research on it. I'm just going to assume.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, again, it maybe of that era. It may not necessarily. I mean, no, there is a 1931 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay, maybe it wasn't.
It was Paramount and Warner Brothers. So of the era, but not Universal.
A couple of things just before we do get into today's episode. We got a couple of things. I got a couple of things to note. Couple of addendums just to get into. Do you know? So you mentioned on the Twitter, which is below our names right there. Do go follow us and go follow the account, the official podcast Twitter at the Dreadcast. You mentioned the other day that it's just been an absolute coincidence that it was Dracula Day.
Yes.
National Dracula Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
World Dracula Day. It's basically the anniversary of the publication of the original Bram Stoker novel.
Do you know what we are? I think 5 days off of another anniversary relating to this, the Universal monsters.
Oh, really?
We have just passed the 6th anniversary of. I'm going to send you the image, and you'll instantly know what I'm on about. I hope the 6th anniversary of this mess. This is very interesting for the audio listeners. Do you know what you're looking at there?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The attempted reboot, expanded universe, Marvel inspired multiverse of Universal monsters, which they canned after one film. Is that right? It's just they did The Mummy with Tom Hanks,
Tom Hanks,
Tom Cruise. I want to see that.
I would have watched that.
Reboot the reboot. Bring Tom
Start
Hanks
it again. Let's go again. Reset the clock. Let's go.
So with Tom Cruise, they did the Tom Cruise mummy, and I think that was the end of the project. Am I right in that?
Yep, you are
I've certainly
correct.
not heard anything else about it since.
Yep, they canned it. So the infamous photo, folks, of Russell Crowe, who was going to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I believe. I think he was in the Mummy film. I never saw that piece of trash.
I don't think I've not seen it either. But I guess they will have done because they wanted to. That was the plan, was to build the universe, wasn't it? So I dare say there was cameos and nods to all of them. We
had Tom Cruise, obviously, not as the Mummy, in the Mummy as the hero. Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man, I believe. We've got, is it Javier Bardem?
Yeah.
He was. I think maybe Frankenstein, and I'm not sure who the actress was. Let's have a look. But yeah, it got canned after one film, and it's one of those photos that you look at, and they had the balls to think we're gonna do it. If they can do it, we can do it. And you didn't even get past one film.
I mean, with the cast that they had lined up, I'm surprised they didn't do it anyway, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have failed as a, Marvel scale expanded universe, but I'm sure they could have just done some more movies, with those people. But
I think the problem is it goes back to what we talk about horror films when horror films have been promoted as the scariest film ever. When they're being promoted in advance like that, as the scariest film. They promoted this in advance of like, right, we've got a universe. This is we're going. This is the dark universe. Rather than starting with The Mummy, then bringing out Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the audience going, hang on, these are linked? And then they can start to advertise it as, this is going to be the universe. They're putting all their balls in the court right now, and it just didn't work. Yeah, Johnny Depp's Invisible Man. All these apparently Dwayne Johnson as the Wolfman was abandoned.
Of course Dwayne Johnson was going to be in it.
Of course he was. Angelina Jolie as the bride. That could have worked. Luke Evans in another Dracula Untold, which is, I believe, one of the worst Dracula films.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
So yeah, I thought that was quite a nice little coincidence alongside your National Dracula Day that we started this along the 6th anniversary of one of the biggest flops in modern cinema. Yeah.
Oh dear.
On a lighter note, someone had some fun with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre technical test.
I did. This guy.
Yeah.
Right, it is very, and well, you're going to get to play it today. You really should.
I will. And the content will be up on the YouTube channel soon.
Yeah, it was great. Absolutely loved it. So much so that we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre last night as well. And it was kind of fun to see how the map of the Sawyer house and farm compared to the film. Like, I got to see just how good of a job they'd done because it was nice. In fact, to the point where I was going, oh well, they're in a gate there in the game. They've closed that bit off and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So it's one of these asymmetrical multiplayers. I think is
the genre right. Get the genre.
That's the genre term. So Dead by Daylight, the Friday the 13th game. Yeah. I mean, there's a Predator one as well.
Oh my god, there was.
Yeah, on the PS4.
I think that didn't do too well out of all of them.
No, but I still kind of want to play it. I do want to try and pick it up just for a go with it. There are others. Evolve, one of the Xbox One's launch titles, that was also in that vein. But yeah, basically, it works two teams. You've got one group playing as the survivors, a team of 4. And then you've got 3 people. I guess it's like up to 3 people, and you don't necessarily have to have a full match. But I think for the tech test, they're filling it up. 3 people playing as the Sawyer family. So it's all at the minute. It's all based on the original, the first movie. So you've got for the Sawyer family players, Leatherface, obviously, the Cook, and the Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Grandpa is also in there.
Yeah, I heard.
He acts as sort of it's a pretty interesting mechanic actually. He acts as sort of a radar for the people playing as the Sawyers.
Okay.
So if you've ever played the Friday the 13th game and you're playing as Jason,
yeah,
you get sort of powers as time goes on. And the longer the match runs, like the more powerful Jason becomes. And one of his sort of top level powers is he essentially just knows where everybody is on the map. You get everybody revealed to you. So Grandpa kind of works like that. You've got to physically feed him blood, and there are various sort of blood buckets around on the map. You either collect blood from attacking other players, so slashing them up and you'll automatically collect blood from them, or there are blood like buckets around the map. You collect the blood, you feed Grandpa enough, he levels up to the point where he will reveal to you as the Sawyers where other people are on the map. At lower levels, it's like he'll highlight one or give you a sort of a rough idea of where noise is going off, that kind of thing. So yeah, basically, as the survivors, you're trying to escape, and as the Sawyers, you're trying to kill everybody, prevent them escaping. And there's lots of traps. It's really, as the survivors, as you'd imagine, it's really heavily sort of stealth focused. You can fight back, but it's not easy. You're trying to limit the amount of noise you're making, avoid the traps, unlock doors. You start off in the basement, and essentially you've got to wiggle free from the hook that you're tied to, and that's what starts the match. Everything you do is tied to sort of a noise meter. So as you're searching for tools, opening doors, whatever else it is you might be doing, there is like a little sort of noise meter running alongside your like progress bar.
Yep.
So yeah, you want to try and sort of get things done as quickly as possible while making as little noise as possible. And yeah, I had no success in either escaping or killing people. I was absolutely terrible at it.
I love that clip you posted on Twitter.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did get to play as everybody, so it was good from that respect. And all the survivors have different strengths and weaknesses. Some of them are a little bit faster at doing activities while remaining quiet. Some of them are stronger, so that it's easier for them to fight off attackers. Everybody has sort of like different strengths and weaknesses, and a special ability based on they call them star sign abilities. So it's supposedly based on your star sign, or the character's star sign. So, and it'll be things like a detective mode hearing ability. One character has. Another one has like a focus that gives them a stamina boost, so they can run further, faster. One of them has a sort of a strength boost thing. I think that allows them to like bust through doors and such. Somebody's better at lockpicking. The Sawyers, Leatherface is obviously the strongest.
Yeah.
He's got the chainsaw, so you do more attack damage. The Cook has.
Has he got a stick?
He has got the stick. He's got the broken broom handle.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's his weapon, and his special ability. He's got like a hearing ability as well. The Hitchhiker has his little cutthroat razor.
Yeah.
And he can lay traps, so he can put down little sort of bear trap type things. And yeah, it's great fun. It is great fun. I was terrible at it, but
that's okay.
A lot of fun. I believe, and I didn't play it. So the map I played was the Sawyer farm, the Sawyer farmhouse. It's got a really big sort of basement, subterranean labyrinth section where you start out, and then the first sort of step. There is an escape route that leads straight from the basement off the map, and you can escape straight out of the basement. But you have to venture up into the house and activate a fuse box to then go back down. So it's a little bit more involved. So you can escape the basement, get into the house itself, and then once you get out of the house, you can get into the garden or into the outside areas. And again, there's like generators you've got to power up to open a gate, or switch generators off to deactivate electric fences, etc., etc. And try and make your escape. So it's not straightforward, They did close the technical test. I think it was around 1 p.m. UK time yesterday for a couple of hours. When they booted it back up again, there was a second map available.
Oh, cool.
To play. There was a slaughterhouse.
Oh,
but unfortunately, I didn't play it, so I can't comment. People from what I saw on social media liked it. They enjoyed it. They thought it was good, but I don't know exactly sort of where it fits into the lore. Whether it's supposed to be a particular slaughterhouse from one of the movies or.
Well, I mean,
there
is no slaughterhouse obviously in the first one, but they reference it about how that's where their dad used to work or granddad used to work. So they probably went via that.
Yeah,
and I don't know, maybe reference it from the remake because the remake ends in the slaughterhouse.
It does, yeah.
And same with the basement. There's more of a basement underground sort of area in the remake.
Yeah, which I thought so. I mean, I'm assuming obviously it launches fully. Is it around the 25th of August or something like that?
18th of August.
It's the 18th of August.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they're going to go and add they've got the license to do the whole franchise and they'll add characters, maps and locations and stuff from all of it. I mean, I guess they'll have to because otherwise there just won't be much longevity to the game as fun as it was.
Yeah. There's more creativity to like this franchise than say the Friday the 13th. You could do different Jasons, but the protagonists are really just there's not much to distinguish the different protagonists really. In each Texas Chainsaw, you get new villains along with Leatherface, but you also, I guess, with protagonists. I mean, Renee Zellweger stands out the most to me in Next Generation, going to her prom. But God, you add Matthew McConaughey in that. Oh,
yeah, I mean, there is obviously you've got on the antagonist side, you've got the Hitcher, the cook, and Leatherface. On the survivor side, they're all new characters.
Oh, so really?
There's a loose story tied in, and there's little opening cinematic that shows this girl being meat hooked and killed by Leatherface, and she's still there on the map hanging from this hook. And you're her friends that have gone looking for her. She's a missing Texas U student or something, and you're her friends that have gone looking for her. So you're not playing as Sally and the rest.
It could be this could just be a story, but this could maybe fall in line as a prequel because obviously the hitchhiker dies very much so in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it can't be anything after that. So, and obviously they've definitely had victims and done their business beforehand. So that's cool. I mean, I would have liked it if it was the film characters because imagine playing. If you want to really distinguish between different protagonists, Sally and Franklin are very different. Are going to be very different playable characters. Franklin trying to wheel, just mashing the button.
Getting out of that basement is not wheelchair accessible. Let me just say that. So I think you're gonna mind you. Franklin has a bad time in the movie, so it'll be a movie accurate.
Sally, here's something. Sally. Oh man, I'm stoked. I'm really stoked to try and play. I mean,
it was cool. It was
I will do my best today, as we're recording today on Sunday. I'm going to do my best to get some content of it and up on the YouTube channel this week. But if I don't, unfortunately, we'll just have to wait till August when it's out fully and we have all the time in the world. But that's not long. It's a couple months away. So.
It's not long. I mean, there are a bunch of people streaming it, and you can check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Aidan_Troll. The short VOD of my relatively unsuccessful playthrough yesterday is on there, so feel free to check it out if you do want to see some footage.
I'll put some of your clips up on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, sure.
So do go check it out. Go check out his stream. Cool. I'm looking forward to that. What was my note? That the Dark Universe. Anything else of note? We gotta tick off anything before we get into the meat and potatoes?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I think we're certainly the big things covered there. Let's do it.
Dr. Acula.
Dracula.
Dr. Acula. What is a count?
It's a level of nobility, isn't it?
I always want
like a lord or a duke.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure where it fits into the. I think it's European. So I think it's like sort of, and it probably again European, that massive continent with lots and lots of different countries in it.
Yeah, I missed that.
But I mean, I don't think it's a rank of nobility within British.
No, I don't think we do have
nobility, but various European countries do have counts. I don't know exactly where it falls in the hierarchy, but yeah, it's a title like duke, lord, knight, sir, etc., etc.
So we've got a couple of counts in our royal family, but we won't go into that. Ayo!
Hey, was satirical. We're satirical and topical, as well as informative and entertaining.
We've got a bunch of lizard counts in our royal family. Yeah, that was literally my first note when I'm watching this film. When I'm taking notes because I never really. Yes, he's called Count Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really actually sat down and I thought to myself, I don't know what the hell a count is. How this character is in some sort of like nobility and owns this castle and whatnot, is in such upper class. Like, I don't know what ranking a count is. It looks like to me Aidan is looking it up though, so we'll probably find it out.
Because I couldn't tell you myself either. Oh, okay. The dictionary definition is foreign nobleman.
Foreign?
So I'm guessing this is the Oxford English Dictionary's definition of foreign, a Johnny foreigner.
Yeah.
A foreign nobleman whose rank corresponds to that of an earl.
What's an earl?
I mean, I couldn't tell you what an earl is either. But
folks, if you know what an earl or count is, please do write in the comments. I will definitely pay attention and read it, and I'll be happy. I'll be happy as Larry.
I mean, the earl comes from the Norse word jarl, meaning leader.
What's a jarl? What's a jarl with you? Right.
I mean, there are lots of resources, but we're not really getting into the ranks of peerage at the minute. But yeah, nobility of a certain level.
Okay. So this,
I mean, enough to have a castle.
One hell of a castle as well, which needs a clean. Needs a clean that castle. So yes, as I said at the beginning of this episode, we both had this box set. Although yours is a bit more jazzier than mine. Yours is the coffin.
Mine's got a coffin box. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we won't get into who's better than who, but whatever.
My cardboard box is better than your cardboard box.
Yeah, mine's getting a bit rough around the edges. Do you have the artwork as well?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to get these framed. They're really nice.
Yeah, we had that discussion this morning as well.
Yeah. But I think I saw you post this on maybe Instagram or Twitter a long time ago. And I think we just over time floated the idea of, we've both got it. Why don't we look into it? And it's worked out that, what we could do a whole series on this. We can, rather than doing it episode by episode, we sprinkle it in once a month, every now and then, and you get a taster of the monsters of Universal. And I guess they are the original big time Hollywood horror, shall we say? Because of Universal. Yeah, obviously had silent movies, but these were the big hitters. They really were.
I mean, yeah, and they come from. Well, certainly Dracula and Frankenstein are coming from literary sources.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the Phantom of the Opera as well. Was the Phantom of the Opera based on? It's an old play or a novel or something, isn't it? I think.
One thing I do want to say with this particular episode of our series is that my knowledge and research will get better regarding the monsters of Universal and Universal as a whole throughout this series, because I haven't had as much time this week to do as much research as I'd like. So bear with us through this series, and we won't just be going, it's that, isn't it? Isn't it? They were kind of like that, weren't they? It says it there. Like,
speak for yourself, Tom.
Right, fine. You've said it now. Aidan knows what's up. Okay.
I'm going to wing it. I'm going to continue to wing
it. We've made it this far. Why not?
No, we will. We will try and get better. But yeah, I mean, like I say, as it springs to mind, Dracula and Frankenstein are the ones with the literary backing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bride of Frankenstein, that must be like one of the early examples of let's churn out another sequel to this, because I don't remember Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein 2, Bride of
Electric Boogaloo. That would work, actually, the electric part.
It would. I mean, the Wolfman, while doesn't have any sort of definitive literary source, is an old creature of like folk legend. Although The Invisible Man's a novel as well, I believe. I'm pretty sure.
I'm definitely not just reading the book that came with the Blu-ray box set right now. I'm not just.
But they are, but by and large, they are the old monsters, the OGs.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, if somebody says sort of monster movie, the classic Halloween costumes you had as a kid, and
this is what they're based on.
Yeah.
Wait, when the word monster, like nowadays, when you say the word monster, you think of like, I don't know, big gargantuan tentacle, many eyes sort of thing. You never think the word monster refers to. I mean, for the most part, all these characters are human based. One's old 1,000-year-old human or whatever that's been, the mummy that's been dug up. One sucks the blood, but they're not what we think of monsters.
Yeah, it's not. Well, but with the exception of maybe the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah,
you're right.
They're not tentacles and suckers and multi limbs.
Yeah,
or giant creatures like Godzilla or King Kong or Mothra.
When is Godzilla week? I have much to say.
We'll do some Godzilla at some point, definitely. So yeah, they are the original ones, and probably the most iconic one. I mean, particularly Dracula. Has there been? It'd be interesting to find out see if we can find out definitively. But I'd argue, like off the top of my head, Dracula's probably had more iterations on film and in other media.
That's a good shout.
At least vampires, if not specifically Dracula. I think that's probably the most prevalent, the most prolific.
That's a good shout, actually. That's a good. That's a note worth taking to find out for the next time we come back to Monster, because I'd be really interested to find out.
We'll do some
not just Dracula
research there.
All of them. I'd be interested to find out all of them. How many? I mean,
produce a graph.
Yeah, a nice graph. Let's
do a graph. Yes.
I wouldn't say
spreadsheets.
That's what the viewers come for.
No, that's what you want.
Admin. I wouldn't say let's look into. You want to look into like TV adaptations or comics or just feature films.
If we just went specifically feature films,
yeah. I think you could be right with Dracula, but I think also, it's in many different iterations. The name Dracula's there, but very different iterations of it. Yeah. Because I also, and one of the other first notes I noted down regarding this film, that Nosferatu is mentioned at the beginning of this film. I always believed, because Nosferatu came out before Dracula, I believe 1920, in the 1920s?
Yeah, it's
22
or something like that, I think.
Yeah. I always thought Dracula, the character, was a completely different entity to what Nosferatu is. From what they describe in the film, they're describing Dracula as Nosferatu.
Yeah, I think it's the etymology of the word, because in Nosferatu, the vampire is called Count Orlok. Nosferatu is not his name. I think Nosferatu is, I think it's a German or Romanian, Eastern European word that means vampire. Essentially, I think.
Yeah.
That it is an archaic word for vampire. So yeah, but has sort of become synonymous with that particular vampire in that film. But yeah, it's a noun, it's a naming word rather than an actual name. So yeah, Dracula is a Nosferatu.
Yeah. I the original look of Nosferatu to me is, I mean, Bela Lugosi's look in this Dracula, 1931 Dracula we're talking about today, is the iconic Dracula, quote unquote, or vampire as a whole look.
Yeah.
But Nosferatu is, to me, more of a monstrous, horrific look. Yeah.
You know, he's meant to be. He's meant to be scary. I mean, I suppose Dracula, and you know, obviously we're talking about the Bela Lugosi film, so we'll mention him.
Yeah.
I guess in the context of that story and of Bram Stoker's story, he's trying to fit in. He's trying to go under the radar, undetected. So he keeps this, you know, distinguished gentlemanly appearance. But there is a reference in I think it's Mina talks about when her friend Lucy reappears to her. She appears as she transforms into a ravening wolf, or takes.
Yeah, she becomes the woman in white. I think they describe her. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and we've seen it in other later adaptations of Dracula, where he can appear monstrous as a giant, like, werewolf type creature, or a bat-like creature, or even I mean, the different, like, thinking of the 90s version with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman. I mean, how Dracula appears in his own castle versus how he appears when he arrives in England, and he's you know, the two radically different looks. He goes from the big sort of bouffant hair, long-fingered Mr. Burns, to Chris Cornell, or Johnny Depp,
Chris Angel,
long hair and the little round shades and stuff, looking quite cool.
That is a fantastic film, by the way, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It is a fantastic film. I do really enjoy that version. That might be, it could be that it is more sort of because he's trying to sort of keep his identity secret and keep and operate undetected. Whereas Nosferatu is, as you say, a monster. My favourite appearance of Nosferatu is that random SpongeBob throwaway gag.
What? No, I have no idea what you're on about.
There's an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where
let's have a look.
I think it might be kind of a Halloween themed episode, and they're in the Krusty Krab late at night, and the lights are flickering, and they get scared that they think there's some sort of creature or monster or killers coming to get them, and he looks away, and SpongeBob exclaims, "Oh, Nosferatu!" and it just cuts to Count Orlok just flipping the light switch on and off.
I think I found it.
It's a great little gag.
I had no idea that existed.
And also the Nosferatu-esque vampire in What We Do in the Shadows as well.
What We Do in the Shadows is on my list to watch soon. I haven't.
Oh, have you not seen it? Yes, it's very good. Definitely, the film and the series are both excellent.
I'm a huge Matt Berry fan. That's been on my list for a long time, so I'll get to that. Yeah,
it is wonderful. But but to talk about Bela Lugosi's look in this, one of my first notes was Bela Lugosi invented the Dracula voice, like that. Yes, listen to the children of the night. That sort of, you know,
what to suck your blood? Ah,
yeah. What does he say at one point? I never drink wine.
Yeah, yeah. He's the way he speaks, like, his accent is great because I believe when I looked him up, he was born in Hungary, but he resided in America, so he was an American. So he could probably go back to his Hungarian accent a bit, or the Eastern European. But the way his acting came across as Dracula was, all right, come on, let's pick up the pace.
There's lots of pauses.
Yeah,
it's
a bit sloth-like.
I noticed that. And it's particularly because there's a lot of scenes that are completely silent.
Yeah.
One in those early scenes where it's Renfield in the castle rather than Jonathan Harker, so there is quite a big diversion from the actual original story.
Yeah.
But yeah, when when in that scene where he pours him the wine and he's serving him, he's moving very slowly, and there is no other sound apart from the wine being poured, and nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
And it's,
I guess
it adds to the atmosphere. I guess it's good.
It really does, and I guess the reason for it is because we're not too far off the transition from silent films to what we're getting now with Dracula 1931. So, people, there's not much of an audio score really going on with this film. The best audio score is the beginning where we get Swan Lake. I don't know if it's called Swan Lake, but it's from Swan Lake.
Yeah,
beautiful piece of music.
It's called The Swan.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
But for the most of the film, there's nothing, and it's just silence. And it's really it can be a bit awkward silence at times. But yeah, it does.
Yeah,
help
I think
the
so,
atmosphere.
especially with the sort of lack of dialogue and the way scenes are shot. It's it's weird. I mean, the pacing. I guess this is sort of to a certain extent movie making in its infancy.
Yeah,
the pacing's very strange in places because we just get a sort of loose collection of scenes that do follow on, but you've kind of got to fill in gaps yourself.
Yeah.
So Dracula shows up at the theatre, introduces himself. Then there's the scene where it's him as a bat in Lucy's room. And then it cuts to Lucy on the mortuary slab being operated on, and she's dead. And it's like, hang on a minute, there's some pretty significant jumps between these events, but we're just sort of like, this happens. Which it flows a little bit better as the film goes on, I think. But it's like they're rushing to sort of set the scene and get things going. In that early half, that first half.
The film, I think the most notes I took were on Dracula himself rather than the film itself. But as far as the film, I'm going to assume here, it's how many people have actually really seen this film, or just seen images of Bela Lugosi as the infamous look of Dracula, or how many people have watched this from start to finish?
I mean, unless you're a big horror buff or you're doing a podcast on it. Probably not. I mean, I must admit, it was my first viewing. I mean, I've had that collection, as we were saying just before we started. I've not seen everything in that box set.
Yeah.
I've dipped into it, and the fact that we're doing the series means, I get to watch them, and I'm looking forward to it. But there's there's maybe an element of, it's an old black and white film, innit? It's going to be rubbish, which is a horribly uncultured view to take on things. But if I've got the choice between something with modern effects and lots going on and an old black and white film, I've got to be in a particular mood.
You do
to sit and watch a slow black and white, mostly silent movie.
Yeah. Well, as a whole, so yeah, it's only an hour and 15 long. It is a short film, but it is a slow pace at times, so it does feel a bit longer at times.
Yeah.
But this was my second viewing, and I remember watching it for the first time maybe only 5 years ago or so. And I believe it was like a Sunday afternoon, and that felt like a slog, but not in the sense of it was a bad film. I enjoyed this film. It was a fine watch. It was enjoyable at times. It was slow at times, but it was an absolutely fine watch. And to think this is nearly 100 years old. There are horror films that come out nowadays that this trumps no matter what. Yeah. And to me, that's incredible. That's really impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I'd rewatch it. I mean, and I think it's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this is because they're the classics, and it was good to see. It was interesting to see where. I mean, the tropes originally come from from Bram Stoker, but it's interesting to see them like portrayed on film for the first time. And like I said, Bela Lagosi did the voice. That sort of little medallion look and the cape and the slick back hair is quintessentially Dracula, or a vampire. Has been spoofed in the Monsters with Grandpa Munster, has that like look. It's
Cape
you know, if
up,
somebody
the collar up.
yeah, the collar up. If somebody says vampire, you know, draw me a vampire, probably do some sort of fangs. Although there are no fangs in this film.
Yes, I was just about to
No
say
fangs in this film. I was genuinely shocked at that. It got to the end and I was like, there were no fangs.
No, none. You don't see
them. Also, spoiler alert, but you don't get to see the staking either.
Nope. You don't.
They kill him off camera.
Yep.
And I think that in like later vampire films is like the money shot, isn't it? Where you'll get the boom, the I know we've seen Christopher Lee get staked in the chest.
The kill at the
God knows how many times.
The kill at the end is literally Van Helsing. Yes, he is dead. All right,
cool. You just hear it. You just hear like some off camera and hear a bit of screaming, and it's like, all right, that's
we're done. We're out of here. Let's crack on. The plot. I mean, the plot is, like we said, all the different iterations. The plot has been changed probably here and there, but it's very straightforward. If you've never seen Dracula, a solicitor in the name of Renfield is called to Count Dracula's castle on a matter of business, because Dracula actually wants to move to Fairfax Sanitarium in England, right, which is conveniently located next to Fairfax Castle Abbey, which is located next to the sanitarium, which to him is probably fresh blood and resources. And he eventually gets there, and then that's where his identity starts getting discovered by Van Helsing, Hugh Jackman, a young Hugh Jackman, and that's basically it. He's a vampire that starts to get discovered. It's a very straightforward plot.
The scene with the mirror. I mean, it does. Have you ever read Bram Stoker's?
No.
Have you read the? Right. Okay. I read it a while back. I streamed it actually. It was one of the stories I live read on stream.
Damn it! You should have described the plot then.
It was a while ago, but from what I remember, the biggest changes. I'll go through. The biggest changes.
Do it.
Is that while it's implied that Renfield did go and visit Dracula, we don't see that in the book. So the format of the Dracula novel is there's a lot of diary entries and things. So the first time we meet Dracula is when Jonathan Harker goes. He goes to visit Dracula to finalize the last of the paperwork and such, and he stays there for quite a long time. I think it's sort of like months. He's there in Dracula's castle, and various spooky things happen to him. And then he comes back to England, and the ship arrives. So one of the biggest changes that this film makes is that we don't get Jonathan Harker's involvement all that much, and it focuses on Renfield, who visited before Jonathan, goes mad, ends up in a sanitarium. Obviously, he's actually under we find out he's under Dracula's influence, and he's acting as his servant essentially. So that's kind of the biggest departure, is that we get this interaction with Renfield going to do the paperwork stuff, and a lot of the film focuses more on him being like the henchman essentially. He keeps popping up at various points and laughing and making references to his master being on the way and such. Then it does follow the rest of the plot of the movie quite closely, but it's sort of skipped through quite fast. So Lucy dying and coming back as a vampire is a lot bigger of a deal in the original novel, whereas literally we just get her being visited by a bat and dead on a mortuary slab, and then it's just referenced by Mina that she was visited her, that she's come back. We never actually see her again as a vampire or anything. And then the shift of Dracula's attention shifts to Mina herself, and she's slowly turning, and then until the off Dracula, which, from as I recall, again, it's skipped through, and it's quite a fast telling of the story. But apart from the Renfield bit at the beginning, it's largely fairly close to the plot.
You're mentioning
there's not too many big changes, I don't think.
The research I did do on this, you mentioned the character Jonathan Harker.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan Harker, was meant to travel to Transylvania in the opening scenes, and they cut it. But that was apparently in the stage play, because Bela Lugosi played Dracula in the stage play in Broadway, which this film follows more from the stage play than it does the book itself. So it's kind of like, it's just a film adaptation of the stage play, really.
Yeah.
So Jonathan
Harker
Harker
explains a lot of their performances, to be honest.
So the character of Jonathan Harker wasn't in the film at all. Is that
he is?
Is it?
Yeah, no, he is. Sorry, yeah. So he's Mina's fiance.
Of course, he's Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Dr. Seward's potential, future about to be son-in-law. But he has a bigger role to play in the original telling of the story than he does in this movie. Renfield takes over what Jonathan's part in the story is for a large part.
Yeah, he doesn't really do too much in this film, Jonathan. He's kind of just worrying the whole time. He's just all concerned about it.
Yeah, and sort of being that, being the non-believer in the room. He's sort of very quickly, or wants to sort of dismiss it all as poppycock. Yeah, and needs convincing by other people. So we have, but we have that great scene with the mirror when they.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite shots of the film. One of my favourite scenes of the film.
Played. I mean, it's definitely not played as a comedy, but I think looking at it with sort of modern eyes, it comes across as really funny because you've got is it a cigarette case box or something with a mirror in it for some strange reason.
Well, for vampires.
So you can, you just check to see if there are any vampires in the room while you're reaching for a
you offer someone a cigarette out of your cigarette box. If you see there's no reflection, they're not getting one.
They're not getting a cigarette. Yeah.
Away with you, vampire.
They can have one of the clove tips.
You're in cigarillo.
But yeah, so it's Van Helsing opens the thing, and it just keeps doing this sort of like cutaway where he's like double and triple taking, looking at the mirror, looking over.
I don't know how many takes you'd need to if I was with someone and their reflection wasn't in the mirror, it wouldn't take me about 10 looks to go, hang on. No. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on here?
They really drum it in there. I mean, I know we as an audience know that Dracula is a vampire, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of sort of subtle foreshadowings that like the I don't drink wine line, and there's a couple of other things as well that sort of make
cuts
you
himself.
Think. Yeah. Oh, that's the other one is when he cuts himself and he sees the blood.
But all this is so early on. This film, we're focusing hard on Dracula himself for the first 20 minutes. Like, we're not a modern film. And I was happy I came up with this. A modern film would. I say a popular IP nowadays, would have additional stories going on, additional characters, and then add in, here's the titular character of the film. But really, we're focusing on these boring people first.
Yeah.
And one of the prime examples, actually, what we just mentioned was Godzilla 2014. Godzilla, it was the great return of Godzilla. But no, we've got to focus on these boring humans rather than the big fun monster. Yeah. No, with this, it's like, boom, Dracula. Here he is. You can tell he's a vampire. He loves to sup. There's something sketchy about him. He's got this deranged castle. I love that.
Three random women living there that he sees.
His wives. He's got a harem of women.
Waves away.
They don't shy away from it. It's we're there. We're right focusing on Dracula straight away.
And then there's a little bit of like people trying to, discovering that he's a vampire, or Van Helsing sort of pointing out that he's a vampire, and then waiting for everybody else to catch up. But just after the sort of end of that mirror scene is they go to offer him a cigarette, and he just like smashes it out of his hand, and it's It's such a strong reaction. Like he smashes it and throws his cape and like cowers and then just sort of goes, "Well, I'm not a vampire," and walks out.
And walks out to the balcony, and then when they go to the balcony, he's not there.
There's a wolf running across the lawn.
Okay, so couldn't see his reflection. He freaking lost it at the sight of a mirror.
Really over the top reaction.
Disappeared from the balcony, and there's suddenly a wolf. Shall we start linking these together?
And it still takes another, however long, 10, 15, 20 minutes of people going, "No, this is ridiculous," before they actually, it's like, blatantly is a vampire. Blatantly is.
Dracula as a whole, as a character, I didn't know that he has somewhat of mind control power, or that he could do he could potentially transform into a wolf. I didn't know that was part of the lore, the backstory of Dracula or of a vampire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I say, I think Bram Stoker is responsible for a lot of the tried and tested tropes surrounding vampires. There's also a couple that aren't mentioned, like they can't cross running water. I think that comes from I think that comes from. I mean, it probably ultimately European folklore.
Yeah.
But I think that's also something that's mentioned and made like a big deal of in Bram Stoker's tale. So Bram Stoker was basically responsible for pulling a bunch of folklore together and giving it to the masses, and then subsequently a lot of those sort of various vampire isms are all taken from what Stoker gave us. So yeah, the sort of mind control, which is, I mean, there's a lot of shots of like lit up eyes, because there's one scene where the torches are slightly off, so he's got like one eye's highlighted. One eye has the highlighted, and the other is just his cheekbone because the torch is slightly off kilter.
You mean the Captain Kirk Morticia just a spotlight over the eyes? Yeah. That's where it came
the spotlight on the eyes. So which indicates mind control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of good. Yeah, I think I made a list of his powers that we see. So mind control, turn into a wolf, turn into a bat, and I think it's implied that he's got strength, superhuman strength as well. I think there's some mention of Renfield's bars being bent like cheese, which seems a really odd thing to say. He bent these bars as if they were cheese. Okay, right.
What would you need to bend? Just in general. No, just trying to think. You're using an example. Do you bend metal for anything? I'm trying to think of an example that you might then use that phrase. You bent that like cheese.
I mean, I don't know, but I guess. I mean, well, I suppose it was the 30s or whatever. Did they have breadsticks then? I probably would have said he snapped it like a bread or something easily snapped or broken.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Bent it like wet spaghetti. I don't know.
Does cheese bend?
Cheese wouldn't be top of my list, I don't think.
Does cheese? That should be the title of this episode. Does cheese bend?
Does cheese bend? I mean, cheese strings maybe. But...
Oh, good shout.
But just another little note I made about the sort of setup that Dracula is to the cast.
Yeah.
That Dracula is a vampire is that when they're at what's the word? They're examining Mina, and they see the marks on her neck, and we don't see the marks on her neck, but he says, "Oh, you've got those marks too. How have you come across those marks on your neck?" And then the maid goes, "Count Dracula," and introduces him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here we go. Here he is.
Yeah, just conveniently, here he is. Yeah. How does he wash his clothes?
How does he wash his clothes?
The man lives
of all the questions about vampires and Dracula, we could be wondering about his laundry.
it was a little note. I just wanted to get it out the way.
Okay.
He's always immaculately dressed.
He is always immaculate, and he's
in a dirty coffin, in a dirty cave.
Literally a box of soil.
Of soil.
A box of soil.
That was another thing I didn't know about, like his lore. Like Van Helsing talks about the earth that he has to take with him. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that comes from the folklore and the that they have to return to the grave each night. It's kind of been taken to mean, and I suppose it's a good way of representing it, is that he sleeps in a coffin.
Yeah.
But I think in the actual in Stalker, from what I remember, it literally just needs to sleep in the soil. It doesn't necessarily even need to be in a box as such.
But it's his soil.
As long as it's his grave soil, yeah. There's a whole thing. So that's all true as well, true. That's all sort of accepted as part of the mythology as well, is this lore.
As far as
they need to return to the grave.
And as far as the lore, there's a scene later on in the film where Van Helsing, the way he talks about Dracula, like when he's really realized what's going on, it gives the impression that the folklore about them is quite a prominent thing in the history of this world, rather than it's a monster that they're discovering how this new monster works. And like vampires have been a thing. They talk about it as in, it's a vampire. Yes, it must be. Rather than, I guess we'll call them vampires. They seem to.
Yeah, no. Van Helsing is he's a doctor.
Yeah.
A medical doctor, but he's also had dealings with vampires. So he's like an authority on them and has dealt with them previously and knows how to identify them, and more importantly, I guess, how to dispatch them. Because he's brought in the novel, he's brought in, might be Dr. Seward that knows of him. He's meant to be sort of well renowned physician. So he's like, we'll get Dr. Van Helsing to come over. And Van Helsing rocks up and goes, I'm a great doctor and I've done X, Y, and Z, but this is vampires, and I happen to know about them as well. And everyone's like, "You're mental. Why are we trusting you?"
you just know about them, apparently.
But he's doctor by day, vampire hunter by night. He knows the biz. So he immediately starts with the wolf's bane and garlic.
I don't think they ever mention garlic.
I don't think it's mentioned in the film, but I'm just trying to remember if it is in Stalker. But it's definitely wolf's bane.
Yeah, but that as far as the repellents, the wolf's bane was more to repel the wolf, the wolf side of it, right? Or was it to repel Dracula himself? Because they've got the cross and they've got the wolf's bane, but there's nothing else. There's no holy water. There's no garlic.
No, I think it's just wolf's bane works against vampires in general.
Remember that.
Yeah, I can't remember if garlic comes in. I'm pretty sure garlic is mentioned in Stalker as well. It may be both that they hang up, and because they hang it all around the windows and all around the bed, and the room's absolutely festooned with it.
Which then Dracula mind controls the maid to remove the wolfsbane so he can do his business with me.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not mentioned, and I don't know that vampires need to be invited in. I don't think that's something.
Oh, I have heard of that before.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where that little piece of lore comes from, and it's one of those that's fairly well accepted and up there with aversion to sunlight and aversion to garlic as being a thing, but it doesn't always appear in vampire tales, and I'm not sure if it's an original sort of Dracula one either.
I mean, he goes the other end of that. He just goes wherever he wants to go.
Basically, if he can get in, he'll get in. Flapping about as a big bat.
Well, that's a great little segue into talking about the bats, just quickly, because those bats are phenomenal. Not just the bats, any little critters that they put in this film.
The little spider is good.
Just snakes up the wall. There
was randomly a possum.
But that's real. It was and armadillos.
It's a real possum.
I swear there's some armadillos in this as well, or anteaters.
Really? I don't remember them.
There's the possums at the beginning when Dracula awakes from
from his crypt in the castle. Yeah.
But I swear there's like an armadillo. I'm gonna look for that. Look for that right now.
I don't remember there being an armadillo.
Ted White all over again.
Going back to the bat, there's the great scene towards the end, just before they go and deal with Dracula.
Yeah,
where Mina is she's on the verge of attacking Jonathan, basically.
I know what you're gonna say. I know.
And he's swiping. And he says, "Look out! The bat will get in your hair."
Look out, dear! There's a bat. It's gonna get in your hair.
And he's just ineffectually. He's nowhere near it. He's just swiping about the place. Yeah, that really made me laugh.
But I'm so happy you noted that. Look out for the bat, dear! They will get in your hair. And that wouldn't have been played for laughs.
No. I mean, like I say, nothing about it is played for laughs, but it's just looking at it with, modern eyes makes it look a lot like it is a spoof at times.
Because it's probably just a crew member on a scaff above, or with a big rod, and it's just dangling this rubber bat.
I mean, there's a bit earlier where the bat turns up and somebody just faints.
It's there?
Is it Renfield just faints? This bat?
Oh,
the bat flies in and he just...
Well, that's at the beginning when Renfield has been... He's drunk the wine that Dracula offered him and potentially been mind-controlled. He goes to open the window and the bat arrived, which is Dracula. But I took that to... I assumed he'd been drugged by the wine.
Possibly. I didn't really pick up on that necessarily. I just thought, he sees a bat and faints.
Oh my! Heavens to Betsy, a bat. I'm so happy you mentioned that about the bat in her hair, man. That was hilarious.
It was great. It was great. Another thing I really like about this is the sets of really the crypt and the castle. We've got these amazing, big, grand, sweeping staircases and pillars, and you could just picture it being. Obviously, it's just going to be a huge sound stage.
Yeah.
With somebody hanging cobwebs up and candelabras and stuff. It's very cool. There's some great shots. I think it's when Renfield first turns up at the castle and Dracula first appears and descends the staircase.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
It's a great shot. And then again towards the end where it must be the Abbey. I think it's the cellar beneath the crypt beneath the Abbey, isn't it? Where Dracula's resided, and there's a huge staircase coming down there. And I was just watching it, thinking like that must have been a big build for the set designers and stuff.
It's one. I'm looking at it now as I'm looking for the armadillo. It's a huge set because it's the one where it's the spiral staircase where Dracula. And it's a beautiful shot. It's a side view of Dracula walking slow towards Renfield as Renfield pleads for his life and then kills Renfield. And Renfield, the actor, stuntman, falls down the stairs. It's huge. Yeah. It's got to be at least three stories high.
Yeah.
But what's great about them is that they're not optical effects. They're not matte paintings. They are sets. The castle specifically at the beginning, so grand. Yeah,
that's really good. Sorry, I've just stumbled across a picture of Dracula with the mismatched spotlights.
Fantastic. The one note I did put about the sets, where was it? I think it was about the castle. I mean, as beautiful as the set was, the castle's an absolute shithole.
Yeah,
it's horrible. I mean, he doesn't live in the castle. He lives in the basement. In his coffin. It's just a place to hang, really, I guess. But it's cobwebs everywhere. It is a crumbling castle.
Yeah, and I think that's taken straight from Stoker's work. There are the let me just remember. Yeah, it's so John. It's, as I said, it's Jonathan Harker that turns up, and he's staying there for a number of months, and he's got sort of 2 or 3. He's given sort of 2 or 3 very well presented rooms that are stocked, and there's a fully stocked library, and we're told that Dracula has done all manner of research about where he's going to live and the laws of England, and he's described as being like really intelligent and well read and well researched. So there's a fully stocked library. And this, these rooms where Jonathan stay have been prepared, but then it's also noted that there's Dracula's sort of private quarters that he's not allowed into, and he's told not to go to the east wing of the castle or west wing of the castle. I can't remember just which, but there's a certain part of the castle that's off limit, but the rest of it is like thick with dust, doesn't look like it's been used. And we're told it's because basically Dracula doesn't use the doors. He flies out the window as a bat.
Yeah.
I think he can also turn into fog as well. I think that's another power that's not mentioned.
I would have liked a bit more of the castle. I'll be honest, a bit more of his domain, because that's 5 minutes of the film, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we just say we didn't see anything of the brides.
No.
And in the story, there is a they kind of did it where the brides turn up and then Dracula comes in and basically just wafts them away. I think in the original Stoker story, that there's a lot more speech involved, and there's a lot more and it's Dracula appearing kind of bestial and feral, and they almost sort of fight over him. I think the 90s version with Gary Oldman did it a little bit better. But yeah, we could have had a little bit more. We could have had a little bit more general vampiring, I think. I still can't really get over the fact that we don't see any fangs.
That's mad. Because
4, maybe 5 vampires in this film, or 6 if you want to include Lucy as well, and we don't see a single sharp tooth anywhere.
Especially as we talked about earlier, the design of Nosferatu, it's prominently, it's right there. It's not even hidden with a mouth closed. They are there, and there's nothing. So I'm intrigued now as well to know what would be the next installment of a Dracula character that really focused on showing, okay, this is his weapon. Right there, 2 fangs. Yeah. This is his key weapon.
I mean, because obviously we're told about the puncture marks. Again, maybe that's something that wasn't in Stoker's story either. But
you think it might have been an additional?
But they must have been, because it's the puncture marks in the neck are there, and that mentioned, and that's legit from Stoker, and that's the thing. So, but I'm just wondering if it was never implied or never mentioned that that's because vampires have fangs, and then later on somebody's gone,
why not?
Oh well, there's puncture marks in the neck, but there's no mention of really how you get there. Well, obviously vampires must have fangs, so let's stick that in. So yeah, I don't know what was the next Dracula film after?
Well, I mean, there were certainly many more Dracula films, I did see that the only other Dracula film that Bela Lugosi did after this was quite some time after, in the Abbott Costello Bela Lugosi. Again, I really want us to do some Abbott Costello stuff down the line in the future, because there's Abbott Costello meets that, and I think they'd be great. They'd be great contrast and good fun to watch.
Definitely.
That was the only one he did, but there were a few more in between. I did have it up. We did.
I mean, so apart from that, he only played Dracula twice then.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
That he's
that iconic.
As iconic as it is, yeah.
5 years after the original release, Universal released Dracula's Daughter in 1936, a direct sequel that starts immediately after the end.
Okay.
And then another sequel at 1943, Son of Dracula, starring Lon Chaney Jr., The Count returned to life 3 more Universal films, mid-40s: House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and the comedy Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So I believe he's in. Yeah, Bela Lugosi reprised his role as Dracula in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, 1948. So yeah, there were a couple in between, but I guess if they're titled Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula, that he didn't need to be in it.
yeah.
So
Didn't need to be in it. I mean, I suppose the next iconic actor is Christopher Lee, I guess, in the Hammer film.
Yeah, if we're talking iconic, for sure, no doubt. Yeah, and then I guess Gary Oldman. Do you know one thing I really
Leslie Nielsen.
Oh,
Dracula Dead and Loving It.
That is anything with Leslie Nielsen, man.
We should do some spoof horrors.
Yeah.
There's a couple of good ones out there.
There's a month filled with spoof horrors right there. And we're not just talking Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, and 4.
No.
I was thinking, like what we've just been talking about. There was this film, there was that film, there was that film we didn't know about. I know my horror knowledge. Let's say anything pre 60s or 70s is really thin. Yeah. Like we all know as big horror fans, we know the big hitters of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and onwards. But I don't know. When I think of time before the 60s, it's really sad. But the first thing that comes to mind, I think of World Wars. I think of the Depression. I don't think of Hollywood and all these films, these horror films. Horror was obviously been going on since the 20s and even earlier. But
yeah. I think
my knowledge is so thin.
Earliest movies, horror's like, one of the oldest genres.
Yeah.
They were making sort of ghost movies in the silent era and early zombie movies and
my knowledge is so thin, and it's become a part of the genre that I'm now really interested to delve into and look and just see what I've been missing. We think about when we talked about monsters earlier. We say monsters of horror. We think of your slashers nowadays. You think of the icons.
Oh yeah.
You don't
People always say
of the classics.
No, of course. People always say like, "Oh, who's your Mount Rushmore of horror?"
Yeah.
And it's Freddy and Jason, and nobody goes Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy anymore,
no one.
Do they?
I
guess props to the attempt to reboot the Universal monsters as a modern thing, but they're not scary, but they're not the icons that they once were. And
exactly, and that kind of leads me into saying, at the time, this film was probably terrifying. There are aspects of this film I can pretend to be in the theater at 1931 and think. I've never seen anything like this before. This is terrifying. But now, a modern audience, this is nothing.
Yeah. Like you say, this is the kind of film nowadays that's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
You could watch, you watch it. Dracula. We're putting Dracula on Sunday lunchtime.
And I think the slow pace of it, potentially, like you said, aspects of it being cut out, missing scenes or whatever. I think it would. Not to downplay the film, I think it would bore a modern audience. I genuinely think it would. And it's a shame because
I think so. I think that's fair to say. It is a shame, but I don't think you're wrong.
No.
There's just not enough. I think if you're gonna watch these films like now, you've either got to be like like we are fans of horror, and you want to look at the roots, or you're studying film and you're looking at it from that sort of early cinematography point of view, or you're of an older generation and got fond memories of this from when you were younger. It's not the kind of thing that somebody's gonna say come out of watching Scream 6 and go, oh yeah, that was good, but it's not a patch on Dracula from 1931. It's just not gonna happen.
Like, I jumped out my seat so many times. How many times are you going to jump out your seat at Dracula?
Absolutely terrified at, Bela Lugosi's staring eyes. It's
and
the sort of
his
looming.
His the slowest assault known to man of the poor flower girl in London.
Flower girl, yeah, it's so weird. It just
She doesn't do anything.
Sort of moves her behind the pillar.
It's a good 7 seconds, I'd say, of this young flower girl trying to get a flower off, selling flowers for the gentleman's lapels or whatever.
Yeah,
and he doesn't even question it. He's just fixated on her, but he's so slow at moving slowly towards her, and she is just. I mean, maybe she's fixated. Maybe she's being mind controlled to not move.
I think we've got to assume that there is that. But then she starts. I suppose she starts screaming shortly after that.
Yeah.
But I think I've always I always take it that the first thing he does is sort of lock them in a trance. And,
yeah.
Yeah. It's not like 30 Days of Night, for example, where they're feral, attacking, screaming, and cutting people up. Attack the sort of vampires. That
was one hell of a pull for a vampire film. 30 Days of Night.
Yeah,
wow.
I was just thinking
of all the films.
I was just thinking of a more sort of, because Dracula's your quintessential distinguished gentleman vampire, and then the other end of the thing you've got the scale. You've got 30 Days of Night, and I was trying to think of something. What's the other end of the scale where you've really got sort of ravenous monsters?
Other end of my scale is Salma Hayek dancing with a snake vampire, but each to their own.
Okay. Yeah,
sucking
fair
on
enough.
Tarantino's foot. Oh no, wait, it's the other way around. Yeah.
He wrote that scene himself.
So how dare you? How could you say something like that? I don't believe you. He wouldn't.
But even sort of the vampires from the Anne Rice trilogy, so Lestat and Louis in View of the Vampire. They don't have that mind control thing going on. They generally, it's in that film where when they're taking victims, it's sort of there's a sexual sort of element to it, and they're nuzzling and canoodling and kissing, and then all of a sudden the kisses on the neck turns into screams and arterial spray.
Yeah.
So they're not for this. So it's like it's subterfuge to attack, but not just an attack at the sort of your feral end of the scale, or mind control and influence at the Dracula end. It's sort of this halfway house. But yeah, I think Dracula's shtick is he bends people to his will.
Yeah. When we talk about different types of like vampires and Draculas, in sense, they're all cannibals. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we talk about the Bela Lugosi's iconic look is what people dress up for Halloween or whatever. What's worse, like dressing up as Jason, this mutant serial killer, or I'm dressing up as a distinguished cannibal? Like, pretty much. That's quite hardcore, and you get kids just dressing up as it because it's I want to suck your blood, and the cake.
Yeah,
but you're dressing up as a cannibal. And
well, it's
evil.
I guess
that's really evil.
I mean, it is, but how often do you think about vampires drink blood? Everybody knows vampires drink blood, but you don't necessarily think about it in terms of how horrific that is, I suppose. You don't at all. And it's probably testament to the fact that he's such a ubiquitous character and image, and a vampire teaches kids how to count on Sesame.
Yes.
Using the Bela Lagosi voice.
I was hoping we'd get a reference of the Count up in here at some point.
Definitely. I'm also going to pull in Count Chocula. He advertises breakfast cereal where it's available, because it's not a British thing. But, I mean, what else? There's got to be vape vampire vapes. We've got a whole chain of e-cigarette liquid shops.
Is there really?
Vampire vapes, yeah. It's a high street chain of vape juice retailers.
Isn't there
e-cigarette shop?
There was. I thought so. There was a blaxploitation film, 1972, called Blackula.
Blackula.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dracula and vampires in particular have been is it Dracula 2000? It's either Dracula 2000 or possibly Blade Trinity, where Dracula walks into a goth shop selling all these like Dracula bobbleheads and other kitschy merchandise, and he's like disgusted that that's his sort of legacy in the modern day as being, teaching kids how to count and selling chocolate based cereal, breakfast cereal.
Speaking of Blade films, I'd forgotten about Blade being vampire films. Oh, Blade 2 is so good.
Blade 2 is good. The original Blade's good.
Blade
Trinity is
not
terrible.
Yeah, you're right there.
So bad.
I probably haven't got too much more, if I'm honest, relating to
the
film itself.
Think so. I mean, just as another little note, talking about modern perceptions of an old film. Some of the acting is a little bit hammy and OTT. And in particular, sort of like Dracula's reactions to crosses and the cape sweep and the
it's very Broadway. It's a very.
But I think that's what it is. I think the acting is a lot more like stage acting put on film rather than cinema acting, and it is a product of the sort of transition from silent films into talkies and cinema becoming more of a medium than it was.
I mean, as far as the acting notes I noted down was, Renfield is like two different. I mean, well, technically he is two different people in this film, but the acting point, after his transformation is far superior to his acting as a human being at the beginning.
Yeah,
I was really struggling with his accent at the beginning.
Yeah,
it kind of was. He's obviously English, but he sounded more English as servant to Dracula Renfield rather than solicitor at the beginning Renfield. It really it floated a bit through different accents. And also, I know we've mentioned this throughout the episode about how
Dwight Fry, I mean, he is an American actor.
Even so, then there were
American actor.
There were hints of like I don't know, some sort of European language floating around with his accent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess particularly in the 1930s as well.
Yeah.
I mean, how many Americans heard a British accent at that time?
Oh, blimey, governor!
I mean, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, but that pervades to this day, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Depending on what you're watching. Like, never get over Frasier's, Daphne from Frasier's Manchester. Which has never seen Manchester. But I did really like Renfield. I did like character. I like him as a character.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah,
and I like how he's appeared over the years in various
and he eats bugs. He prefers to eat bugs rather than feast on human flesh.
Well, he's not a vampire.
Then what is he? That is what I didn't get.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not a vampire, and but he's very much under Dracula's spell. He's very much under his motivation. And he has he's sort of like a lesser perverted version of it, if you will. Like if Dracula, if for argument's sake, Dracula's ultimate goal is to like create a bunch of vampires and rule the world as the lord of the vampires, then Renfield has like that same ambition, but for vermin. So basically, he wants like flies and spiders.
Yeah.
And I think it's lesser lives, rats, rodents. I think at one point he says in the story, he professes to Dr. Seward that he'd really like a little kitten, and he wants to control something, but he sort of, because he sees himself as so much lesser to Dracula, then the only conceivable thing he can be master of is something like an insect. But yeah, he does tend to eat them.
I was a little bit skeptical when he brought up the lines of it was something along the lines of I want smaller flesh, I want smaller beings. I'm like, where are we going with this, Renfield? Yeah. Let's keep it PG now. Let's keep it light. The other questionable bit of acting, which we mentioned earlier, that there were certain aspects of this film played for laughs for us, but not for back in the day, was Martin, the staff member of the sanitarium.
Yeah.
He is the proper, God blimey, governor, that's a bit nuts, isn't it?
I mean, he's the guy that comes out with the line about the bars being bent like cheese.
Yeah. When he's with the maid who gets mind controlled later on. He's hunting the wolf with a shotgun, and then he alludes to, maybe she's not what she seems as well, and then he just starts slowly backing away into the woods, like he doesn't trust her either. But he's definitely I don't even know if he would come across as comical relief in the film back then. I think it's just to us, really.
It's difficult to say. Maybe not.
No.
But I think because of this sort of outlandish accent that he has, it does come across as being more funny. Than it's perhaps meant to be, because it's very sort of Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins level of
very
hamming it up. Quo blimey.
The actor who played Van Helsing did a great job. I think I like the character of Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, in terms of, like I said, sort of keeping with the story, I think it does follow the beats quite well, and Van Helsing is exactly what he's supposed to be. He's a very well educated man who happens to know that some elements of the supernatural are real, and is very scientific and, as a matter of fact, about that as he is about how blood is pumped around the human body, for example. Is one and the same. It's facts and knowledge, and he does come across. It does come across very well. He's played very well. Yeah, definitely. I'm just going back to Renfield for a second.
I
was just trying to find who played Renfield in the 90s Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was Tom Waits. And I think he is my favourite Renfield that's been on screen.
Now, obviously with the new film that's come out, Renfield, I didn't actually know, because I don't know, my knowledge on this whole story of Dracula is very loose, is very thin. I didn't know Renfield was, shall we say, his servant, Dracula and Renfield. So when the new film came out, I thought they were doing a Dracula story, but Nicolas Cage's character was called Renfield. The vampire was called Renfield.
Oh, right, yeah.
So obviously Renfield is Nicholas Hoult, I believe, is in that as well, and Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula. Nicholas Hoult is playing Renfield. So now I'm more intrigued to go and see that. It's
meant to be very good.
Yeah,
from what I've heard, it's meant to be very good. I wouldn't mind watching that myself.
Yeah,
yeah. He is a good character. It's, sort of. He got a figure, I believe, in the I nearly said Tom Savini. It's not Tom Savini. The Movie Maniacs figures. Todd McFarlane.
Really?
Todd McFarlane Movie Maniacs series. There is a Renfield figure. Yeah, he got his own. He did get his own figure. He is an interesting character, and one that you could probably play around. I mean, obviously the new Renfield with Nick Cage is more of a horror comedy, I believe, isn't it? It's more of a comedy film.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But he's because he is sort of like, disturbed and creepy, and I think there's a lot of things you could do with him. It does make for a good crazy one. But it is rapid. I did like the bit where he smashes the box, make the stakes towards the end, Mr. Van Helsing. When he opens the box and sees Dracula in there, and then immediately There's no like he just I guess he knows, but it's in a way not informed that he's not going to wake up, and he just starts smashing up. We need some steaks. Find me a stone to hammer in. And how long does Jonathan take to find a bit of stone or something to bang the stakes in? He's kind of like, whoa.
I mean, you're in an underground crypt. Where do you think you're meant to find a stone? You know?
I mean, he doesn't rush, does he, though? There's no...
He's a bit of a flusterer, old Jonathan.
Yeah.
He is a bit... There's one thing I just want to quickly bring up. When Dracula arrives in London, and he's got his whole plan in action. He goes to the theatre, which is where he plans to meet the head of the sanitarium, Seward, right?
Yeah.
So two things at the theatre. When he arrives at the theatre, the staff member at the theatre has a torch to show him to his seat. Call me very ignorant here, but I didn't think torches like that existed in the 30s.
Handheld torches.
Because this is set in the 30s. It came out in the 30s. I believe it's set in the 30s after the war. Or sometime after the war, I believe.
Oh, you know what? I didn't think about the setting.
Yeah. It's not Victorian. I don't think it's...
I mean, it should be. If it's keeping its original setting. It should be Victorian.
Oh dear, neither of us know when it's set.
I assumed it was set at the same time as Stoker's novel, which is...
Let's have a look.
Essentially when it came out, which was, 18-something?
When is 1931? 31. Dracula set. Here we go. Where does 1931 Dracula take place? Transylvania. Great. No, give me a year. Oh!
Yeah, so Dracula was 1897, the original novel.
Okay, all right. Well,
so I assumed it was set at the same time as the story.
Let's go. Yeah. Well, even so, that kind of adds to my point. If it is set even further back, this lady had a handheld torch.
Yeah.
I would have thought it'd be like a lantern, like a little candle. The other...
I'm going to look when the handheld... I mean, the 1890s was when the first handheld flashlight was invented. Following the...
I suppose so, yeah.
But I mean, are we getting ushers in the theatre having them at that?
Exactly, probably yeah. The other point related to the cinema was, in fact, two more points. I don't know. I just had the old-timey voice in my head is that when he arrives at the balcony, Mr. Stewart stands up and they're talking, and Jonathan and the two women are there, and they're looking at each other, and I was just expecting John... Oh my, Count Dracula, how marvellous. Oh my. I was expecting a really old-timey talk, because their facial expressions are of... Oh my, just a proper, oh my, just outstanded by him. And then to follow the theatre, you've got, is it Lucy, the other girl, Mina and Lucy?
Yeah.
Mina says to Lucy, he's so romantic, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's putting the bar really low. That's the really low bar right there.
Yeah, they're simping over him.
They really are.
Distinguished foreign gentleman. I don't know the Helen Seward's line at that. Excuse me, I'm needed on the telephone.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh.
On the telephone.
I'm required to answer the telephone.
I don't think I really had too much left of the film. I mean, I think the biggest discussion of this film really is talking about Dracula himself. Like I said, the plot is very straightforward. It's talking about the characteristics of Dracula, because thankfully he is the main focus of the film, whereas nowadays, like I said, it'd be put on the back burner. He'd be
probably wouldn't be. There'd be we'd probably be looking more at Jonathan and Mina's impending nuptials.
How they got together, how they had a bit of trouble, they got back together, and then Dracula comes in. That's exactly what it would be. Yeah, I don't think I mean, I loved that it was in black and white. Just a little thing like that.
Mm-hmm.
How we've talked about that before. How old timey films, the quality of their film isn't great, but the way it holds up today still adds to its horror effect.
Yeah,
There's something about the gritty and graininess, and this being in black and white, I love it. I don't think it would be as scary as impactful if it was in color.
No, I don't think so either. No, it'd look out of place. It'd look strange. I mean, obviously, we're going to get, many coloured Dracula films, or Dracula films in colour, rather, later on. But yeah, it's I think it just adds to that iconic look and tone. And that's that's what we're going to see as we go through this series and we watch the other movies. We're going to get that sort of, possibly with a couple of exceptions, probably first mainstream version of each creature, each monster.
Yeah,
and it'll be interesting to see, as we've sort of pointed out a few of them with Dracula. It'll be interesting to see if we can point out a few sort of early horror tropes. Or early sort of horror specific monster tropes that will get that'll become lore and ubiquitous with those characters as time goes on. Be interesting to see what comes up there.
Oh, one last thing, just on the film as a general, and I got a few little bits of production I just want to talk about. Did you clock that the second carriage driver leading from, shall we say, a crossroads leading to the castle, was Dracula himself?
Was it?
Yes.
No, I didn't pick up on that, because my first thought was it looked like Marty Feldman in Young Frankenstein.
Yes, it does.
my first,
with the
as soon as
with
the face, the sort of tight hood, and kind of bulging eyes, and I instantly, for a split second, I was like, oh well, this is clearly where Young Frankenstein got its inspiration from.
That is Dracula. He's apparently intentionally trying to be in this disguise. Right. Because then when Renfield looks out the window, there's a bat. That's Dracula. And then when they arrive, there's no driver.
Oh,
because he's flown off. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
But that's I can't remember now though if that's the first first look you get of Dracula. Does he awaken from the coffin first and then we see him in the carriage? I think it's the coffin first. I feel like
no, because isn't the first coffin scene the wives getting up?
Oh, it could be. Oh no, all four of them. I think they all get up at the same time.
Do we see all of them?
Yeah.
Because I thought, I only watched it this morning. Yeah. Before we recorded this, I could have sworn that Dracula's appearance when he appears on the stairs. But I guess you're not supposed to know that it's him necessarily. That's a good spot, but it's probably a bit of a, an Easter egg rather than main focus detail sort of thing. But yeah, no, I was too distracted by it reminding me of Young Frankenstein, unfortunately.
That's understandable. That is very understandable. I think that's pretty much the majority of what I've got regarding the film.
I think so. I think that pretty much covers mine. Yeah.
I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend it. If you're a horror fan, you have to be a horror absolute massive nerd like ourselves. But if you enjoy horror films, I would highly suggest checking it out because it is only an hour and 10, barring the odd credits at the beginning and back. It's a piece of movie history. It really is an important piece of movie history, and I would sit down for an hour or so and check it out. You won't be scared. We can tell you that now for a fact. But you can appreciate it for what it is.
You can appreciate it. It's an easy watch, good fun watch, and like I say, it's given us a lot of what we know about vampires, and what we expect from vampires and things like that. So when you see these sort of more modern adaptations where it's promising a new twist on the vampire genre.
Yeah.
You know, this is what's being twisted. It's the OG. It's a decent retelling of the original vampire story.
And I think I mean, you look at the Wikipedia, we could go into the film and the production, everything about it. We'd be here for another 2 hours. But we can sprinkle Universal background and stuff over the series because this will be running. This is going to be a long-running series now, so we've got a lot more time to discuss the time period of the Universal Studios at this time and their acquisitions and whatnot. Last thing, actually, I do want to mention the posters are. I mean, all the posters for the old Universal horror films are just phenomenal. The artwork is incredible.
Great artwork.
And if you do look, I mean, I'm looking at a bunch of them on the Wikipedia page, but you can find these on Google Images. And they've got this is the key one. It's a blue background with Dracula's face and big bold yellow font saying Dracula. But there's plenty more, like some of these incredible theater reissue posters. I actually don't know how to describe them. They're just so visually appealing. They're so bold and impactful.
There are some great ones. I would like, I think, one of the creature from the Black Lagoon. I think I'd like one of those framed.
Have I got that? Must have. Oh, this one?
It's not that one. There's one. Well, I mean, I'd take any, to be quite honest, if I can get a decent size print of it. But there is one where it's just the creature.
Oh, okay.
So front and center.
I think the Frankenstein one is my favorite out of all of them. This one with his big
the red, with the
big head. Yeah.
There's one, and you'll have it. The Wolfman. The Wolfman. Just look at his face; it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the Wolfman effects when we get to that film. Yeah, this boy.
That's the one.
That is a special kind of special right there. Oh, yeah. That is one of the few effects out of, I believe, all the Universal monsters that doesn't hold up too well. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in the Wolfman episode down the line. Oh, I've gone blurry.
We will indeed.
Very blurry here. Yeah, it's the end of the episode. It's all good. So, yeah, I guess that's 1931 Todd Browning's Dracula. In a nutshell. We could have gone another 2 hours because there's probably so much more information we could discuss about this. Well, I think that's pretty much the gist. And do go check it out. Go check it out if you can find it.
Yeah.
So that's the first. Go on.
I was going to say, where can they find us, Tom? Where can they find this episode? And
if they can find me not so blurry. This is the first in our Monsters of Universal. I'm really blurry now. It's like I put Vaseline on my camera.
It does. It looks like one of those late night Channel 5 movies.
Emmanuel.
No. Body Chemistry 4.
This is the first part of our Monsters of Universal series. So, did we both pick Dracula, or did you say Tom pick one and I said Dracula?
That's how we did it.
Yeah. Right. What are we doing next month? Because next month is basically your month anyway.
Well,
what do you want to do?
The next disc. I don't know if the discs are in the same order in your box, but the next disc is Frankenstein in mine. So
I had a feeling we're just going to go year by year, aren't we?
Why not?
Well, yeah, why not? It's easier that way.
Let's just do it that way.
Cool.
The order that they come out of the case is fine by me. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it like. Oh, actually, talking about my picks, we've got so we're doing Frankenstein for our Universal.
Yep.
Toxic Avenger.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've seen or heard of this film, but I keep spotting it, and it sounds interesting. It might be a load of rubbish. It might be all right. 2018's Antrim, the deadliest film ever made.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, well, It's been on my Amazon watch list for God knows how long. I keep seeing it, and it sounds interesting.
Oh my word!
It's sort of it's got an interesting film within a film premise.
This poster is you in a nutshell. This is... A young boy and a girl enter the forest to dig a hole to hell, as you do. Said to be a cursed film from the late 1970s, Antrim examines the horrifying power of storytelling. All right, cool. Noted. That's what we'll be doing.
Like I say, I've not seen it. I don't know what it'll be like.
Perfect.
It sounds interesting. It might be weird. Let's give it a go.
That's going to be one. Next month is one hell of a month then, because next week we'll be going back to the Gates of Hell trilogy. And we'll be looking at part 2 of Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy called The Beyond. The film, not set, but that came after The City of the Living Dead. By the way, do go check out City of the Living Dead review. I'll put the card here. Need to start doing that on YouTube videos. Straight after that, Toxic Avenger. We're going to see the antics of Melvin.
Love that movie.
Yes, that's going to be a fun one. Week after that, we'll be checking out this monstrosity called Antrim. It's actually subtitled The Deadliest Film Ever Made.
This film ever made. It's responsible for the death of at least 60 people, Tom.
Oh, is it? I'm so sorry. Rest in peace, all those 60 people.
It's cursed. That episode might be our last.
It might be. Well, at least we're getting Toxic Avenger out the way then first. And then we'll be capping off June with our part 2 of Monsters Universal in Frankenstein. So stay tuned for all that. You can check the schedule out on the Twitter and the Instagram at @_Dreadcast, where I'll be posting all the updates. Check out this episode and more on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Podbean, and the YouTube, or by searching The Dreadcast. And all our personal goofy Twitter accounts below, where antics will be had. And there should hopefully be some footage of the technical test of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game coming to the YouTube channel soon.
Yay. Good stuff.
Do you have anything else before I apparently vanish out of existence here?
Before you fade away, I think we're done. I think the only thing left to say is stay spooky, folks.
Yeah, I believe that's it. Stay spooky.